Welcome to the Madison Podcast. My name is Ben Lavender, New York's favorite British mortgage broker. It's been a while. For those of you hanging on the edge of your seat saying, Ben, where have you been? Which is a grand total of probably negative people. But yeah, we took a little break. It's the summer. A lot happened for me personally, some good stuff, which I won't get into. You can contact me privately if you really care that much. But today we have a very special guest who drove quite a minute to get here. So Sam, I appreciate that. Please welcome or say hello to Sam Berek from Deluxe Realty.
It's good to be here, and it wasn't that bad of a drive, to be honest. It was less than an hour. It's like 58
really?
minutes, because I live in Somers. So it was like a 58-minute drive. I'm like, I put in the GPS. I was expecting it to be like an hour and a half. Woke up extra early.
You got lucky.
Yeah.
You got really
no
lucky.
traffic at all.
For me, it was the opposite. It said 25-minute drive, which it never does.
Yeah.
To be fair, I took the wrong exit. I tried being clever, and it went from 25 to 50.
Nice.
So yeah, yeah, great. That is why I was late. But anyway, Sam, let's go into the interesting stuff first.
Yes, absolutely.
And let's just kind of, I mean, we won't plow through it.
Yeah.
But we'll get it out the way, because I do think your background is kind of unique, and you're in a situation which I've spoken to a lot of people in the business like struggle with, and that's, you know, that you got in early. You got into the business very young. You were how old?
I was 19. I was like a month away from my 20th birthday.
Right, so a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
And now you're in the business. You're crushing the business.
Yeah.
You took it by storm. New York real estate did not know what hit them till Sam came. That's what happened. So, okay, so let's start off with this. What drove you to the real estate business at 19 years old?
So I was in school.
Studying what?
I was in Baruch studying business, and you know, I always wanted to start my own business. That was the big dream, like my own company.
Yeah.
You know, I watched all those movies, Wolf of Wall Street. I'm like, ooh, that's so cool. I want to do all of that. And then I quickly realized that, you know, the professors that are teaching it like have no idea what they're talking about. Like, some of them never owned the business, so it was kind of like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm going to be paying tuition for 4 years, possibly more if I want my MBA. When I could just go and try starting my own business. Like, I was in a position where, you know, I have two parents, you know, like middle class, so I was able to live in their under their roof, take my own risks. And in my head, now is the best time to take risks. As you get older, you know, like I'm sure you know, you have all the responsibilities.
For sure, but what drove you to real estate specifically? Like, why not?
So
another sales
job.
job.
I know I deviated a little bit, but basically, long story short, when my parents moved from Queens to Westchester, they were represented by Arbor Bolitamaj. Like, he was this like young guy, like he was super sharp, and I didn't really care because my parents were buying a home at the time. I was 16. Like, I did not care about him. I was just looking at a home. I'm like, oh, it'd be cool to tell my friends like I live in a house now. So he came over to dinner like after we closed on the house. My parents were super happy. He got us like $75K off the like asking price, like really good deal. But this was in 2020,
right?
So it was a bit different. But
2020 was very competitive. That's not.
It was
in 2020. That was not.
It was competitive because that's when like the whole COVID
Right.
thing started. People were like freaking out. Everyone's like trying to get out the city. You know, there's all those riots and stuff. So whatever. So he came to dinner, and he pulled up in a Porsche 911, which happens to me, which like a white. I remember it was a 2014 Porsche 911 Turbo S.
Nice.
Happens to be my dad's like favorite car. Like, my dad raves about that car. And whatever, we're having dinner, so I like looked at the car and looked at him. Like, he didn't look like too old. I thought he was like maybe 29, 30. And whatever, long story short, dinner was nice. And my mom was like, oh my God, like that kid's amazing. Like, we're so like grateful for him. Like, that kid's gonna be amazing. I'm like, Mom, why are you calling him a kid? Like, that's a grown man, you know? Right. He's like, he's 24. I'm like, what? 24 has a Porsche? So that's when like my like sight kind of like changes with it, like with like what I want to do. I'm like, I want to start early. So fast forward 2020. I mean, no, it was last year, 2023. I want to get into real estate. Like, I'm like, I hear all these things about like the business, like, you know, real estate like makes 90% of millionaires, all those statistics, whatever. So I reach out to him. I want to try real estate wholesaling because like that was a big trend and everything.
Yeah,
so I'm like, oh,
TikTok. Yeah.
let me speak to him. And I was still in school at the time. I was still in Baruch. I had like a 3.95 GPA. I was doing really well.
Awesome.
And I reached out to him about it. He's like, within the first like 30 seconds, he's like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, do not do real estate wholesaling. It's a sham. Like, you're gonna be looked at upon like some of the dirtiest people in the business. I'm like, okay. So he's like, come work for me. Like, if you're really serious about this and you're really like, I see you're really ambitious. He's like, come work for me. And like, long story short, we had like a 5-minute conversation. I ended up dropping college like that same day. I dropped my next semester. I'm like, I'm going like, I already had like that like bug in my stomach saying like, oh, you should leave college. Like, try starting a business now. Like, think of something. Like, put your back against the wall. Like, that's the only way. Like, you drop college, that's not an option anymore. No plan B.
Like you said, it's the time to do it.
Time to do it. So, yeah, he took me onto his team, and year and like 2 months later, here I am. So,
crazy.
And I do not regret it at all. It's been like a crazy like year of growth. Like, I don't even recognize myself from a year ago, and like mostly because like he's like a true mentor, and like I think that's really important because he's just like he's very hard on me, very strict. Like, he's like, you came to me saying you want all this, like, put in the work.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's
so
not.
I also want to like take a step back for people who listen to this, because that's the type of story where a kid's like, I have to do real estate. But
Yeah.
So what I want you talked about the good. Please talk about some of the hardest things in your first year in the business, things that you struggled with, or things that you struggled with that you didn't expect to.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So to start off, something I would have done differently is I would have saved a little money before I went into the business, because I went into the business like with like zero in savings, like zero, like, because I'm like, oh, like I could sell a house. It's probably gonna take like 2-3 weeks. That's what it said on Google.
Yeah.
And
Not in New York.
quickly did I realize, like, I didn't get my first check 4 months in.
Right.
So I'm like,
And honestly, that is considered, I think, early.
yeah,
Right. If you talk to anyone, they'll say on the earlier side you'll get paid in like hypothetically you could get paid in as quickly as 2 weeks, right? But realistically, 3 to 4 months. You know, by the time you generate your first lead, you network, generate your first lead, convert, sell, go into contract, close. Like that's a 4 month period.
Absolutely. So yeah, like 2 months into like joining the team, that's when I went into contract on like this small condo out in Poughkeepsie. So it was like my first exciting deal, but that deal was a mess. Like the client, like he was tough. Like he just recently went through a divorce, and like just emotions were high. And I was 19 at the time. I'm like, I have no idea how to deal with other people's emotions. I'm like, what am I doing here? Like the guy's freaking out about talking about like his marriage. I'm like, I have no idea like how to relate to that.
Right.
So it was definitely like, that deal in on its own was a big wake up call. I'm like, I asked myself that deal. I'm like, do I want to do this? Because that was tough. Like that was scary. Like the guy was like freaking out at me because it was my first deal. I was messing up like on the mortgage numbers. Like I was trying to wear all the hats at the same time. Like because I was freaking out.
Which you shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's everyone should do their job, but we know in this business,
absolutely,
there's you got a lot of really great people, but you've also got a ton of average people, I could say, or even people that aren't so great that make your job more difficult.
Sure,
Sam, let me ask you this, because this is another thing I know new agents in the business would want to know is how did you go about generating business for your first couple of deals? So
being completely honest, like for my first couple deals, so my second ever deal didn't really count to me because it was my grandparents' co-op in Kew Gardens. I was selling it for them.
That's most people, to be fair.
Yeah. So you access your inner sphere, you contact them. My first deal was a referral from my broker. Because he's pretty hands off with the business in terms of he does not sell real estate. Gotcha. Like he's the broker, but he does not touch deals at all. Unless somebody comes up to him, he's like, okay, please sell my house, and he lists the house. And
but he's not actively going.
Not active at all. Like he's gone out to other ventures, and he's really like in a mentorship role, which is what I feel like makes our team very unique. So like I was lucky enough to where like my first deal, like he referred him to me, like he gave me the lead. He's like, this is the background on this guy, but you put in the work. So like he gives me the tools. I have to like use them properly, put in the work and all that. So yeah, that was my first deal. So, and then from there it was like really a referral base, like from my family and like this circle sphere and all that. So they gave me my first couple deals. My first year I did 9 deals. So I would say 3 or 4 of them were from my family, like family referrals.
Sam, that's crazy. 9 deals in your first year.
My goal was 12.
Great. I mean, you should have high standards, but okay. So I know people who've been doing this for 15 plus years that struggled to close 4 deals last year. Yeah. Right. So that is amazing. Good job.
I mean, I appreciate that because I went into like full time. Like, again, my broker's like live, breathe, sleep, like real estate.
You have to be obsessed.
You have to. He calls it a total emergence. Like you like totally immerse yourself in the business. Like. It's just your lifestyle now. Right. Don't think about anything else. Don't think about money. Just focus on learning the business.
It's excellent advice because it's true, and a lot of people try and sell like balance. Yeah. So I know you can reach a level in the business where you do have balance, but your first 5 years you have to be in grind mode.
Absolutely.
Like just nonstop, and that's what he preached.
It's that, but I also think you have to like set realistic expectations for yourself.
Yeah.
So like my thing is always like aim for the stars, like shoot for the moon and all that. So, you know, I was aiming for 12 deals, knowing that was a reach for the first year. You know, it's gonna be tough, and you know, just
if you told me that, I wouldn't be negative and be like, you can't do that. I'd just be like, that's gonna be kind of hard.
And you know, even my broker's like, it's doable. Like put in the work, like it's very doable. You know, especially like a tough market. And something I really appreciate about the time I came in, which was last year, was the market was a mess. Like especially like in Westchester, where I'm like doing most of my business.
Okay, so I hear that like you're grateful for it, and you should be, because people who came into the business in 2020 and 2021, it's almost like they don't know how to work for business. Right? Because when you wake up and deals just fall on your lap, you don't have to grind for it. Like you have the beauty of coming into the business at one of the hardest times ever.
Exactly.
Right. So, but having that as a base, and this way, when the market picks up, whether it's 3 months from now or 4 years from now, it's just going to be easy for you.
For sure.
Right. It's like, it's that foundation of having like actual skills. It changes.
100%. And on that, so like my first deal was real tough. Like again, the guy was going through a divorce. His ex-wife was contacting me. He's like make sure, like, because I was trying to help her find a rental as well, like, because you know my broker was like friends with both of them, because when he sold them their first house, you know, they were together, they had a kid and everything. So she was like, don't tell him where my address is. Like I was just caught in a this big storm. So I was like, wow, like, do I want to do this? Then my second deal, which was in Cortland, it was like a nice house, real nice couple coming from the city. It was like first time home buyers. That deal was like a walk in the park. They got clear to close in like 15 days.
Amazing.
It was like after like contracts and all that, was like insane. It was like, I'm like, this was easy. Maybe my next one's. I haven't had a single easy deal since then.
That's normal.
And I kind of appreciate that, because again, like tough times create tough agents.
Yeah.
So these challenges and the hurdles we had to jump, like I'm not gonna like talk about them all here.
Yeah.
But man, like
again, you come across some weird. What's that you can talk about? What's the strangest or the most bizarre scenario that you've seen yourself in so far? I mean, it's early still.
I mean, that first deal was like bizarre in terms of like the scenario I got myself caught in, but in terms of like tough deals, like a hard deal, I would say it's one of my most recent ones. It was in Yonkers. It was this house. One of the agents on my team listed it. We got a call into the office. It was this Asian buyer, like does not speak English. It was his like daughter speaking, like translating and all that.
Right.
And so I took the call, you know, went to go meet with them, and like the guy, like he didn't speak English at all. His daughter was there. The only things he said to me in English, as soon as we walked into the house, he's like, "Oh, you want to see my bank statement?" And just shows me the bank statement. Like, "Oh, you don't need to show me that. Like, take a look at the house. Like, you know, we'll talk about that after." So they ended up loving the house. Long story short, I thought it was gonna be a super easy deal. He put like 50% down. It was like a $600,000 house. And fast forward to when we're about to close, the title came back, and there was an open permit from 1952, like an open work permit.
What was it for?
Like electrical work and an extension for the kitchen that was like done to in addition to the house. And like, you know, like I'm sure you're familiar with Yonkers. They're like they're tough with that, like the building department. So he didn't want to close. The people selling the house, they took out like 2 HELOCs on the house, or like they took out a lot of money, so they basically had to repay the mortgage all over again.
Got it.
So they needed every penny from that deal, and he was requesting like $60,000 in credit, like in escrow, to get that permit done, because he didn't want to move into like an open permit house.
Yeah. Okay, so they escrowed for it.
It wasn't that easy though, like because they needed to basically, the sellers were already in contract on another house. Who that seller was in contract with another house. Who that seller was in contract with another house. So it was like 4 deals lined up. This guy was gonna kill the deal. He was like, I'm walking away because they can't close. They didn't have $60,000 to give.
Right.
And he was really, really stubborn about it. And this is one of those times it's like, all right, like I feel like I'm too new in the business. I exhausted all my options.
Right.
Called in the big guns. Called my broker in. And within like 5 days while he was abroad, just like renegotiate. Like spoke. Like he's very good when it comes to like. He's a people's person, so like he understands people and gets like kind of manipulates them in a good way to like just understand like the gratification, like not the gravity of the situation. So he explained to me, he's like, look, they don't have that money. So he ended up convincing him somehow, some way to like close in $40,000 in escrow. But just such a super.
But where did they get the money from?
So I don't know what the mortgage broker did, but like he like redid the numbers. Oh, so he got a $20,000 credit from the people they're buying the house from.
Oh, wow.
So like he's like, because their deal was riding on that. Like it was 4 families riding on it. So
they
he got $20,000 there. We took a cut on our commission by $10,000. But look, like, you know, we were double ending the deal, so we kind of had the flexibility to do so. Yeah. But still, like, just like a lot of moving parts, all within 5 days. And like all the agents were calling me, the buyer's agent. I wasn't even the seller's agent. I was the buyer's agent for this house.
And they're
like,
calling you.
They're like, how could this happen? Like, what's going on with this deal? Like, all these families about to lose the house. I'm like, I'm trying here. Like, it's my first year in real estate. Like, I'm doing everything I could. So it was a real. That was when I was like, that one really put a sweat on me. That one was tough.
But you learn from those.
100%.
And what happens is, and maybe you've experienced this already, but over time, like the next time you run into that scenario, it won't stress you the same way.
I was just about to say that. I listed a house in Wappingers. The guy flipped the house, put no permits on the house, same exact situation.
Shocking.
Handled it within 30 minutes, and like we closing that. Like we're closing Friday in escrow for like 10,000 escrow.
That's the way.
Yeah.
That is how you handle those situations.
So I'm like, in those times, I'm like, holy crap, like I'm about to leave this business. And then when everything closed, everything settles, like I learned how to do that. If I ever run into that situation again, it's gonna be like cakewalk.
Yeah, and I would say that scenario in particular, like open permits, is so frequent.
Yeah,
it's so common.
Yeah,
you know, it's just about having the right people. Like if you've got an attorney involved that's not familiar with New York real estate, it's a nightmare.
Yeah,
but other than that, it should be smooth.
No, I know it's like I've come to realize it's common. It's just how the whole situation unraveled, because what I like to do and what our whole team does is we always do a FOIL request to make sure like we kind of like hedge against like those situations.
Right.
Like so we kind of, okay, there's an open permit. Let's pre-negotiate that so we don't experience that at closing. The FOIL didn't show that, because even when we called the town, they're like, what open permit are you talking about? It's on the title. The town, like the buildings department's like, we don't see this permit. So they had to go like somewhere deep into their dungeon, look at some paperwork back from 1952. They're like, oh wait, there is an open permit. I'm like, oh god.
Yeah, they need a better system to track all this stuff. But again, that's New York for you.
Yeah.
Sam, what would you say, going off topic? What made me think of it is that you mentioned that your broker at the time, like, you know, spoke to the clients in a way that explained it to them clearly. What do you could call it your superpower, you could call it whatever, but what is it about you that you feel most clients basically connect to or resonate with?
So with me, it's...
And you have full permission to brag here, by the way.
No, for sure. I feel like with me, it's becoming a lot more emotionally intelligent. So the way, especially when I first consult with clients, is like I love to get to know them, and not to get to know them like, oh, what kind of house are you looking for? 3 bedroom, 2 bathrooms. Like get to know the person, their situation, really like walk a mile in their shoes. Because I feel like once you emotionally understand a person, you like instantly emotionally connect with them. They start trusting you immediately. You start trusting them immediately. You like become like family almost, like, and that's how you treat them.
I think about how much time you're spending together.
100%. You're spending months together, and like you're handling, if you think about it, which is true, like their biggest financial like transaction ever for most people, like, you know. So it's, you're getting to emotionally know them, like you're getting to know their family like at a deeper level. I feel like my superpower is like now, a year later, like I just become like an emotional chameleon. Like you're going through a divorce, like I'm gonna start to understand you, like, you know, like especially like, you know, through the years, like I had my own relationship, you know, it was a 4-year relationship, like, you know,
it was long,
it was long, especially for someone my age, and like, you know, we went from like, we started dating when I was 16, like, and like up until now, so like it was like maturing from like being together since we were kids to like now she's in college for she's gonna become a teacher, like for education, and like we just have our own adult responsibilities now. Right. This is not like just a job or like a hobby to me. This is the real deal for me. This is
you're all in.
Yeah, I'm all in. So I guess my like that's what it is. It's like I emotionally like mature with the clients, and like they just feel understood, like super understood. I go into debt with these people, and I make, like, even if they're uncomfortable to talk about it first, sure, I don't try to like break into like their lives, but eventually they just like, it just comes out.
They have to, and they also feel like they can trust you, and they need to pour it out. And the reality is like you can suit them, you can help them best when you know the full story. Right, so it's in their best interest, but like you said, it takes a minute to just open up to someone.
Exactly. It's like becoming and
be like, Sam, I'm getting a divorce. I need your help. Everything's stressful. Blah, blah, blah. You know, it takes a minute.
And that's my favorite part about the business. You know, obviously, like we're all in it like to make money at the end of the day. But like in terms of the business, that's what I fell in love with. It's like I could call a person, and we've known each other for a month, but they talk to me like we're family, and that to me is like, it's just like it's fulfilling. That's what it is.
It makes the business more fun, and also to pick up on what you just said, there's nothing wrong with us wanting to make money. Because a lot of people in the business feel like guilty almost, like kind of like an imposter syndrome. It's like we do this so we can provide for ourselves, our own family, right? As long as you're giving someone
and we're in
a fair
America,
deal.
so like this is the land of opportunities. This is why like my family they moved like they immigrated from Russia,
right?
Like they came here to give like their kids opportunities. So
do you have any siblings?
I have an older brother and a younger sister. My older brother is about to turn 28. My younger sister is about to turn 15. So like we have like a 6-7 year like difference between each other, which is cool. Like I really appreciate having like my older brother because he's like I kind of see into like my future through him. Like okay, he did this and this, he ended up where he is now. Like this is how I do this and this is where I'm gonna end up. So it's kind of like my prediction into the future. Like I kind of like look up to him in a way because even though he's not in the business, like he's a data scientist and all that. Like he works for Booz Allen Hamilton, which is like a private military contractor. Like sounds cool, but he says it's really boring. But like he like it's just I just look up to him and like it kind of gives me some comfort because like something with me is like I always like stress about the future, which I feel like it kind of like feeds into like how I view like certain things. Like when I first entered the business, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be a millionaire in 2 years. That's not gonna be the case, and that's okay. Like like it just he kind of offers me like comfort for the future in a way. So
I got you. Yeah, it's like that comforting. It's literally he's your older brother, right? He'll relax you.
Exactly.
Again, you'll kind of see how everything goes. I mean, I got into the business when I think I was 22, 23, and I wish I had got in a little bit earlier.
For sure.
Those extra couple years like give you an edge.
Yeah.
Right. And college was cool. I was similar to you. I was studying accounting at Queen's College.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And it was just like it was cool when I finished it.
Yeah.
But it was like if I got in a little bit earlier, it would have been nice.
I feel the same way. Even though I started 19, I'm like I wish I started when I was 18. So that's when you could get your license.
That extra year is strong. Okay. Time wise, we're doing okay. I have a few more questions though, so we can't go
for
yet.
Sure.
Sam, number one piece of advice that you have right now for buyers, and when I say, I don't mean general, I mean like specific to this market or how you see things going. What are some common mistakes or even, what's the word, like perception they may even have from like the media that's not totally on point?
100%. So my biggest advice, and this is something I do again when I first consult with my clients, is getting your expectations right. So speak to a realtor who's experienced. Speak to a realtor who's in the trenches 24/7, because we see all the action. Even mortgage brokers, like we know what the market is because we're in it daily. Speak to them, get your expectations right. Know what you want from your family, because I know a lot of buyers get frustrated and even dismotivated when they just go into buying a home and they just start looking at 50, 60 homes. Like, oh, I want 3 bedrooms. Oh, wait, maybe I want 4. No, my mom is going to have to move in with us. We need a finished basement.
Yeah. So
just know exactly what your situation is and what you're going into, what you want, like what your outcome is, like before you go into it, because you're going to save yourself a lot of time and stress.
So I have a question, Sam.
Yeah.
So, because a lot of people will enter the market with very unrealistic expectations.
For sure, yeah.
And what I always like to say is the market will teach them.
Yeah.
If they don't believe me or they don't
100%.
believe the realtor. So do you find yourself in those situations, or do you have like a sit down where you're like, look, you think this, but this is what's going on type thing?
I gauge the person out. It depends on the person. Like I'm working with a client right now who I'm selling their parents' co-op in Peekskill. Like it's their daughter. They already came into the market kind of knowing what the market's like. They bought like a townhome in 2020, so they're used to that market. But when I first spoke to them, like guys, like I just want, before we go into this, like I want to be as like honest with you, and like I just I feel like it's my duty to be honest with you. Like, market's tough right now. Like so if you really want a home, like they have a growing family. They got married not too long ago. They had their first child, so they have that growing family. So like they had that. I knew they had that motivation to buy.
Right.
But they're like, oh no, we know the rates are like crazy right now, 7%. We know homes are going like over asking right now. We're ready for that because it's worth it for us. And when it comes to the rate, they're like, I feel like people just kind of got used to that because people know
it's the new norm.
It's not only that it's the new norm, but they know what's gonna happen once those rate drops. They think prices right now are insane, so they already understood that. They're like, we'll just buy now.
You're very lucky.
Yeah,
you're very lucky, Sam, that they already understood that.
Yeah,
most people don't get that. Anthony, flip that. gold, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got to know that.
No, a lot. So that's what I'm saying. Like, they kind of understood that. They're like, we'd much rather, like, buy the home, like, at a, a reasonable price right now, even though nothing's really reasonable right now. They're like, we'd rather buy it now and just refinance later. Like, it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's like the obvious thing to do, because, like, again, it's a lot of emotion involved. People know it's the obvious thing to do, but like, oh, but the rate's so high, my monthly payment's $4,000. It's not forever, because they're like, oh, I have to pay $4,000 a month for 30 years. I'm like, you're not gonna live in a house for 30 years.
Right.
That's one. Two, you're always gonna be able to refinance.
I think most people sell and move on average, 9 years?
I think it's like 6. Like I think it's less than that, especially nowadays. Like,
yeah. Well, it used to be in terms of mortgage life. People used to, get a new mortgage, meaning they would refinance or sell every, I think it was 7 years, and now because of all the refis from a couple of years ago, it went down to 4.5. Yeah. Right. So the cycle of people doing repetitive business has increased, actually.
Of course.
So you can get a lot more business by through, again, your database referrals, which a lot of people
that all changed, I feel like, within the past couple of years, because COVID, everyone was home, people were building families rapidly, so a lot of factors changed that market.
So it will be big. And I'm going to flip the question on you to the other side.
Yeah.
What advice would you have, well, same line of questioning, but for sellers?
For sellers, I mean, everybody knows this. It's, I don't even have to say it, but, like, they're in, like, a very unique situation right now where, especially with my market, Westchester. Yeah. I mean, you list, like, any home at, like, a semi-reasonable price right now, no matter the condition, people buy it. So they know they're in, like, a seller's market right now. So I would just say, like, just still keep your expectations normal, because I've went on listing appointments where, it was a big home, but it was like probably someone that hasn't lived there for like 6-7 years. Like, it's a grandma's home that, like, they pass on to them. Yeah. And they're like, oh, because this is in Westchester and, like, it's a 2,000 square foot home, we could easily sell this for $700,000, and I might even do it for sale by owners. But, like, a lot of sellers, what they don't realize is, like, you can't, like, people still have to want to buy your home. Like, if you look at the other houses that are in that market for $700,000, like, you'll get a pretty decent home still, even at 2,000, like that 2,000 square foot, like, range. Yeah. So, like, the specific seller, he's like, yeah, if you're not going to list it, like, if I'm not getting 700, I'll just list it for sale by owner, and, like, I don't care. Like, he was, like, I'm like, look, like, I totally respect that. If you could do it, like, I'll gladly admit I'm wrong. Like, you're right. Like, you set a record right now with the condition of this home and how much you sold it for. Like, I'll admit that. I will own up to you. But, like, my job is, like, obviously to the sellers is, like, obviously it's both our best interests to sell it for the most money, because I'll get paid more, you get more money in your pocket. So, like, when I tell you, like, when I give them their, like, evaluation, I go deep into evaluations. I, like, run all the comps. Yeah. Like, I do all the stats on this, like, price per square foot, everything. I have a detailed report for them. Like, usually my prices are, like, I'm good with that. Like, I've, like, throughout the year, like, that 1 year that I've been in real estate, like, I've, like, really pounded on that, because my goal was to focus on listings. So, like, I want to make sure I got that down packed. So usually the price I give to the sellers, like, like, obviously we'll price a little below that market, like, to, like, build that traction on the listing. But I know how much you're getting for this house, especially working, like, living in Westchester for, like, 4 years. So yeah,
so you price it like just under, so
I price it just under, a little more competitive, because if you like, say a home is gonna go for $750, I'll price it at, like, $725 just for that traction. We'll get like, you'll be able to end up getting more than $750 possibly if you're building that traction, because, like, once you start going to those $5,000 increments, people don't, like, it's not like in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of money. Right. So, like, you slowly inch up past $750.
So, like, creating that momentum is
for sure
key.
Yeah, I mean, from what I see, if you don't have an offer within, like, the first, like, 2 weeks of your listing, it's going, like, like exponentially day by day. Right. So, like, if people see, like, because people who are, like, been in the market for a while now, they know the Westchester market, so they know if there's no AO or best and highest within, like, 10 to 14 days, there's something wrong with that house. Off. Yeah. So, like, that already, like, people know that by now. So that's something I try to carefully, like, my goal is to, like,
well, some people won't listen. Let's be real.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, like, look, like,
I feel like most people would.
Most people do. Some don't, and I respect that, because, again, it's where their emotions tied in. They're like, I lived in this house. This guy specifically is like, this house has been in my house for, like, 45 years. Right. There's that sentimental value, which unfortunately doesn't translate to monetary value. Yeah. So,
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, one final question. Yeah. We went way over time, but that's okay. I feel like we could go for another hour, honestly. You can use this question however you want, but what does your ideal client's profile look like?
Okay.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be demographics about, where they're from and their income level, but I'm really referring more to like personality type and approach.
Personality type, like, again, like, I try to be a chameleon, but like my ideal client, the people like from like my, like, the recent sales and all that, has definitely been like the younger first-time home buyers. For the simple fact that, we're like close in age, so like we just experience the same generation, or like just we're in proximity with things we know and things we relate to, while at the same time they're first-time home buyers. I'm a newer agent, so while they're growing, I'm growing, and like it just goes like hand in hand. Like they start trusting me because I'm like, for certain things I just don't know, and I tell them like, look, I don't know this right now, but I promise you I'll have an answer for you like in an hour.
And that honesty gives them comfort too.
They give comfort because they know I'm not gonna BS them, like, because again they know I'm growing, so like I'm gonna go find the answers. Like our team like combined experience is like over 25 years, so like, I'm just trying to kind of sponge in everything my team's getting, and they know I'm translating that to them. And they know I have their best, like, because something I do often is like, once I get to know what they like, what the client likes, and the real reason they're moving into a house. If I don't see that reason in that house, I'll tell them like, I don't think this house is for you. Like, they'll be like, oh, I like the kitchen. I'm like, yeah, but like, the bedrooms are like super small. Like, you have a king bed, and you said you want a master bath. Like, you're not gonna be buying your dream home right now, like, like,
which makes sense for both of you actually, because look, they'll probably come to that realization in a few days anyway.
For sure.
So instead of like going through all that for no reason, your time, their time, and heartbreaks, just come to it now.
Exactly.
Like, and because you have seen it before, so you recognize the patterns.
Exactly.
And that goes a long way. And then they're just like, yeah, I should listen to Sam.
Exactly. So like just with the younger crowd, like, we just build that connection immediately. They're like, oh, this is a younger agent, because I wasn't expecting you to be so young. On the phone, you sound like a lot older. We swear to God, you were like 30 or 40 years old. I'm like, no, I just turned 21. So they were this couple that I said that they know how the market is. The ones that I'm helping their parents sell the co-op. That's my ideal client. Like they listen. Sometimes the truth hurts a little bit, but if they're motivated enough, they'll succumb to it, and like they'll adapt to it.
This is a tough business when we're dealing with very serious transactions. If you're in the business, you have to be comfortable with not having rude or aggressive conversations, but tough conversations about things that are really important that could influence the direction someone goes. And you have to be used to that, or you have to get used to it, because if you don't, you're not going to go very far.
Exactly.
So Sam, a little over a year in, you're already crushing it. I can't wait to see what you do over the next few years. It's going to be very interesting. Yeah, you must be super. I'm like excited for you. I'm curious myself. Like this is gonna go well. Sam, where could people reach you, and how, or what's the best way for people to reach you?
So honestly, my Instagram, like I'm focusing a lot more on social media right now. So the pinstripe realtor, that's what I go by.
I like that.
I try to. I'm just experimenting still on social media, so I'm like trying to like build like a brand sort of.
As you should.
Yeah, so
I'm just like all people you're talking to, do that.
So as of right now, it's the Pinstripe Realtor on Instagram.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
DM him, follow him, do all that fun stuff.
Absolutely.
Sam, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise, thank you. Cool.
Awesome.